Welcome to Cocktails and Capital, the working on your business podcast that feels more like grabbing a drink with your best friend. I'm your host, Sarah Tatum, that best friend. I'm the owner of Tatum Accounting, where we invite our clients to take a vacation from their bookkeeping. In this podcast, I'm going to give it to you straight. Talking points and bake tips, we don't do that here. There's a bunch of noise out there in the entrepreneur community, especially when it relates to finances. And when you're trying to run your business, you just don't have time for that. And I know that you would rather be doing literally anything other than recording expenses and logging into your accounting software. So I'm bringing you practical advice without any of the fluff, just like your best friend would. So turn the volume up, grab your gin and tonic, and let's dive into this week's theme. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cocktails and Capital. Today, we have a very special guest on, my dear friend, Katie Prill, Love and Lettering by Katie. Katie is also a military spouse. If you don't know, Tatum Accounting is full of military spouses. And so we have some unique experiences, and Katie and I are going to kind of divulge our military spouse secrets, disdains, happy thoughts about it. Yeah.
Not all of
So
them, though. We have to keep some of those
we have to keep
secrets.
some of them secrets. Yeah. Those are only good for Facebook groups and angry mom groups. So otherwise they stay inside. But anyway, Katie, thank you for coming on today. I'm really glad that you agreed to do this with me.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I was very excited to see the invite.
Yes. Well, we love you here. So we're happy to have you. So you are Love and Lettering by Katie. If you have not already followed Katie on Instagram, you really should, because she has some really funny reels and memes and posts super cute pictures of her adorable dog, Maverick. And you should go follow her on Instagram. But you also have a shop on a platform called Spousely, which is pretty much like Etsy for the military first responder community. I would love to know what your experience has been like as a military spouse with a small business moving. I know you moved from one base to the other and kind of took a break from your spousely shop on that time and how that affected you. So give me your story. Give me the full spiel
All right,
on the
well,
spot.
let's dive right in. First things first, I am an Air Force spouse of 15 and a half years. And prior to having my own small business, I was actually a nurse. So
Ah,
I worked in the nursing world for 12 years. And then we were in an assignment in Alabama when dear old COVID hit,
ah,
and my job went to like a halt. I was just working as needed at the time, and I was not needed. So I got
ah.
to go home and stay with my kids and get to deal with the whole homeschool aspect from that standpoint while my spouse was also doing his school from home. So at that
Full
time,
house.
it was a full house, and we we were bored. Yeah, did a lot
Yeah.
of art projects or spent a lot of time outside, but I also at that time found a creative outlet with
Uh-huh.
hand lettering and just watercolors and different arts and crafts. And not long, after COVID started, we picked up and moved from Alabama to South Dakota. And in the process of that move, we just made the best decision for our family. We had to pivot, and
Uh-huh.
at that point, it made more sense for me to stay home with the kids than for me to go and find another nursing job at that time. And I took that opportunity to turn that creative outlet into a business. And so in September of 2020, I started my spousely shop and I started my small business. And
Uh-huh.
now I'm at a little over 3.5 years of having a business. And when we PCSed, or permanent change of station, we were in South Dakota for a little, like almost right on the nose, 2 years. And we moved in June of 2022. And we
Uh-huh.
moved from South Dakota to Virginia. And in that time, I did have to shut down my spousely shop just because there were just too many other factors that needed my attention. And that's one of the good things about having a small business is I was
Uh-huh.
able to put that on the back burner and focus on unpacking, getting my kids settled in school, figuring out where the closest Target, Michael's, and Starbucks are because of priorities. And
Priorities.
w- when I started back up, I knew that it was probably going to be a little more beyond what I could was capable of with
Mm,
taxes and just running the business and making things legal. I previously had a sole proprietorship when we were in South Dakota, but when we
uh-huh.
moved to Virginia, I knew I wanted to start an LLC and kind of feel a little more official in that
Mhm.
aspect. And I also realized that I was very behind on my books. And that's when I found Sarah Tatum.
Yes.
I
Yes.
had
It
been
was
following
good.
her for a little while and I reached out and I said, I need help. Can you help me with this backlog of receipts and paperwork and Excel spreadsheets that have not been updated in forever? And she helped me.
Yes.
And she's
We
still
did.
helping me with that.
In many, many ways. You're not we'll just touch on that for a second. So you're not a current monthly client, but you are still taking advantage of like the fact that we're here and available for questions and things like that. And so like just to make that clear to everybody, we're not hiding behind a glass case like your bank teller. We are here, we are
Mhm.
open. You can ask me questions anytime that you need, but I do like if you leave, we're not just going to ghost you, which is a good
Right.
thing.
Because
No.
we have a relationship with our
We
dogs and
do.
all of that.
Yes. Yes, we bonded over our dogs. Maverick looked like a baby moose when he was a baby, and we thought Maverick was gonna be a big boy, and he did not turn out to be a big boy. He's a tiny
No.
boy. But speaking of your QuickBooks file and your receipts and everything, and I think we started you on your QuickBooks file initially.
You did. You
We
did,
did.
yes. For the
So
first, gosh, like half a year, I would say. I was a full client.
mhm,
You did everything. And then what's the um package that I am now? The
office hours.
office hours. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. Yep. We don't even know. But before that, you were, if I remember correctly, it's been a really long time, but you were kind of using Spousely just for like income tracking. And then we had expenses sort of in more of like a spreadsheet format.
Correct.
And then the dreaded shoebox of receipts as well. And you did not have a ton going on, but you're not going out to Michael's and buying supplies every day.
Right.
But you did have expenses and it did get, overwhelming for tracking. Do you feel like your decision making got to a better place after you started using QuickBooks and started looking at your numbers and everything compared to where you were
Absolutely.
when you were just spreadsheet? Yeah.
Oh, yes. I feel also that like I was held accountable because could see what I was spending my money on, to be honest. And the thought would be like, oh gosh, I know she's not going to judge me, but Sarah's probably like, why is she at Starbucks? Like, no, just kidding. I do have a
Mhm.
separate business bank
Yes.
account, which you did help me kind of unmuddy those waters, I guess, when I
Yeah.
created the separate business bank account and get
Yeah.
everything totally clean off of our personal credit cards and all of that. And that gives me peace of mind knowing that everything is totally separate. My personal stuff is separate from my business stuff, but still in the back of my mind when I'm in Michael's, I'm like, do I actually need this? Will I use this? Will Sarah judge me?
I just want to make it clear to everybody that I
She
am
won't.
not going in your accounts and
I
judging.
know.
That's what we're here for. And like going through your income statement, going through your cash flow and everything is so important. And also in trying to figure out how much to charge for your products, which I know I've hammered on this podcast a few times, but looking at what you're actually spending and what your cost per item really is and what it boils down to is so important, especially when you're in a product based business like you are. And with your products, they're not these big products that are being sold. Some of them are digital, some of them are downloads, some of them are stickers, which may not look like they cost a lot to make, but depending on the cost of materials and where you're getting materials from, it can cost a little bit. And you also, you have your shirts, you have other things that you're selling. And so it's important to look at these diverse pockets of products that you're making and figure out what exactly you need to charge in order to make money on all of those products. We have also talked
Absolutely, and
about
it's more than just the materials too. It's the
yeah.
time and it's the
Mhm.
machines and all of those other things that I think a customer doesn't necessarily always take into account, but those things in the background that still are required to make said product.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, in being a COVID business like me, do you find that COVID kind of did it hurt being a small product-based business in the year of COVID? Have you seen, like, a slower growth than you think you would have if it wasn't for COVID? Or do you think you had maybe, like, an advantage being COVID-based? I feel like some people have a thought that they got a leg up because everybody was at home and spending more money and not going anywhere, so they had the time to shop and, spend money on things like that. And some people feel like their business would have been better off if it wasn't for COVID. But then in the same instance, we may not have had the opportunity to do these businesses if it weren't for COVID because you might still be nursing.
Right. I it's completely I have no idea really how to answer that because I don't know. I having only been born out of COVID,
Yeah.
I don't know what to compare it to.
Yeah.
And I have seen tremendous growth over the years. I think as I've gotten more comfortable with marketing my business and growing a social media account and just getting to know my customers and building relationships with them. And I see the repeat customers coming
Mhm.
back and get to know them. And as a small business who's not, I'm not terribly large, but I'm still doing more than I was a couple years ago. I do recognize
There's
the people that keep
consistent
coming
growth.
back. There
Yeah.
is, and I'm grateful for it, but it's hard to say, would it be better or worse had COVID not happened? And the answer is I don't know. And I don't know if I would have even started the business had it not
Yeah.
been for that. I mean, I very
Yeah.
well could have stopped nursing just due to other circumstances based on
Mhm.
the tempo of my spouse's job and
Yeah.
just everything that's going on with the kids, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very valid. Would you find that because you do, like I said, have some really good reels, and you have some good memes on there. Do you find that people gravitate toward those kind of posts and will order based off of like that kind of sarcasm, sassiness, or like what is your measure of success with your marketing and your product sales?
I do believe 100% that they do relate to a lot of that. And there
Yeah.
has been more, I think, humorous content, but I find that I try to sprinkle the motivational, inspirational just as much. So it is both.
Hmm.
It's probably 50-50 between both inspirational and humorous content. But I feel like the more that the more relatable that my content can be, sometimes I am building a relationship behind the scenes, and it is more likely that I will get a customer out of that and get an order out
Yeah.
of that. But
Yeah.
again, I don't
Yeah. We don't know.
entirely know. I'm not seeing the metrics. I mean, I guess I am looking back to see who's visiting the link, but I don't
Uh-huh.
necessarily know then if that purchase comes from that link or they went to a different
Hmm.
browser or they found me some other way.
Yeah. Do you, so when you started the business, did you start straight off with Spousely or did you like gravitate towards Etsy or because I'll be honest with you, I had no idea Spousely was a thing until I met you. And it is a really, really cool platform. If you are listening and you haven't looked at it yet, you absolutely should. And we'll leave a link in the show notes. But for as long as I've known you, you've been on there. And I
Yes.
know it's also fairly new. So was curious on how you found it.
So I have only been on Spousely. I have found the platform probably within a month after they launched. And it started for military spouses in the military community or veteran community, but the platform is also opened up to the first responder community as well.
Yep.
But I do want to point out that anyone can shop on Spousely. You don't have to have
Yes.
a military or first responder affiliation to shop there. Anyone can shop. It's just the vendor side has to have that.
Yes. Yes. I have thoroughly enjoyed Spousely. I think it's a great platform. I think just watching your business, it's been a great platform for you. And it's allowed you, I think, to go into more locations and be in front of more people than a big, big platform like Etsy would be. Not to say that
Right.
Spousely small, but Etsy, we all know, is pretty oversaturated.
Right.
Yeah. And so for you, you have this cool little chart that you're trying to fill all 50 states with your orders.
Yes.
And I think we were super close in 2023.
I was extremely close. I think I had only 7 or 8 states left to get to, but it is still my goal for 2024, and I'm gonna work really hard to make those connections and to ship to all 50 states and Washington, DC, even though I could just drive there in 45 minutes. But,
It'd be
you
cheaper
know,
to ship it.
it probably would be, and I wouldn't be swearing in the car because
Yeah.
traffic. And
Yeah.
if you've been in the Northern
If you've
Virginia
ever been to
area and
DC,
driven, yeah,
yeah.
if you've driven I-95, you
Mhm.
totally understand why.
So with that, going into the 50 states, have you found that I know the answer already. Have you found that tracking your sales tax has gotten any harder with being in multiple state? What kind of process are you using for your sales tax? I guess would be the better question because you do ship to multiple places. We do
I
have to
do.
keep track of how many transactions we have to certain states during the year. If you don't already know, you should go listen to my sales tax episode because it'll explain everything. Um,
Right.
but we have to keep track of how much we're selling to certain states, what kind of state they are for sales tax. So, what does that kind of process look like for you? I know Spousely tracks some sales tax.
Yes. So I know that, and a lot of it is related to how many transactions you have per state or if you meet a certain threshold for, you know, sales,
Economic
which
threshold. Yes,
correct that those words.
those words.
I am paying attention to that, but I don't meet those standards
Mhm.
for 48 of the states.
Right.
Only 2 when I started my business in South Dakota, obviously I did apply for a sales tax license there. And even
Mhm.
though we since moved to Virginia and I have my Virginia sales tax license, I do continue to submit my South Dakota sales tax because I do have a large portion of my sales do continue to come from South Dakota because I built up that sales base from the 2
Right.
years that we were there. So I
Right.
continue to submit my sales tax quarterly to South Dakota in addition to what I am paying in Virginia. And I think by paying attention to where I'm shipping, in the back of my mind, I am paying attention to, okay, this seems like there's more, you know,
Yeah.
packages headed to, you know, California, or I'm in the back of my mind, I am, and I will be honest, I
Yeah.
don't have a spreadsheet on that yet.
We don't have a spreadsheet for it or anything, but I do
But
think that like
I know,
the
I pay
map is
attention to how
helpful.
many.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Keeping track of where your products are going is pretty much step one. And I would be more like insistent on you using a formal tracker if you were suddenly shipping like hundreds of packages a week or something or a day. That would be insane. But
It would be
just
a goal, but
it would
I'm
be
not there
great.
yet.
You would be posting a reel of you just crying on the floor. Um,
Probably, and Maverick would
oh,
be licking my face, and
yeah,
I
yeah, that's
yeah,
yeah, that's what they're good for.
they
But
are.
I do just want to like point out as an aside, if anybody's confused on why we're still filing sales tax in South Dakota, in addition to Virginia, the whole thing is, and we talked about this in the beginning of your work with us, is that moving from South Dakota to Virginia, even though you created a new registration in Virginia, excuse me, even though you created a new registration in Virginia, you still had an open presence within the state of South Dakota. And so, with that presence, it never ended. You never stopped making sales there. It was always an open ended presence. You were already paying sales tax. If you had suddenly never made a sale to South Dakota again, we could say, okay, we're going to shut that down. But unfortunately, when you're making so many sales still, it just leaves you open to that liability. And we want to make sure we're compliant with all the states and everything. So if anybody's confused on why she's doing so much work, that would be why. I do want to just ask you a couple of other questions, like an aside. Do you find it difficult especially in being a military spouse and juggling the schedules of 2 kids, of a husband, and everything. Do you find it challenging at all to find that balance between business and life for you, and also to find, like, actual rest time? So I know that's something that we've talked about before.
Mhm.
We are trying to wear many different hats. I know it's been in your reels before, and I know you've been open about that. And so, yeah, if you just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. There is definitely a balance, and I feel like the first year or 2, I never said no to
Ah,
anyone, to
mhm,
any order. It didn't matter. I wanted that customer, I wanted that sale, even if it came at a cost to my mental health. And
yeah,
I remember and there's certain seasons of life where it's gonna be busier than others, and I think most product-based businesses can probably attest to the fact that the 4th quarter is always extremely busy
yes,
because everyone's trying to get their holiday gifts and everything like that, and you're making that last push at the end of the year. But the first 2 years in business, I did not have good boundaries.
mm,
I had a cutoff date for orders, and I continued to take it every time someone asked. "I'll get it done. I'll do it. It's fine." And I recall being up till midnight just and getting up super early, and
yeah,
I was worn down. And I think when we moved to Virginia, I did a better job that holiday season of sticking to my boundaries. But this year, I really did. And I think, honestly, and it's going to seem weird, but I think since getting Maverick, I've also been more consistent with my boundaries as well because
mhm,
we got him as a puppy and he was pretty strict schedule. Like he wanted to go to bed at a certain time. So my husband and I, that was the time we went to bed. He would stay in his kennel and sleep, and we didn't have to get up in the middle of the night to let him go out. But, he was on a pretty strict schedule. And, I was obviously home with him, but he needed
mm,
walks at certain times. He needed to be let out at certain times. And I could not pay attention to what his needs were, or
right,
else I would come back and he had eaten the kitchen towels or he was on the kitchen table because he was a table serving jerk. But I, I do feel that honestly, having him has caused me to not be working so late at night because those were the hours, he hits 7 o'clock at night and he's tired and he's actually cuddly and I can enjoy the time that I can sit down on the couch. I can talk to my
yeah,
kids. I can talk to Ben. You know, the evenings became my, hey, let's sit down, let's watch TV together. Or they'll watch TV and I'll read my book. And
yeah,
I'll cuddle with the dog, cuddle with the kids, and I found that, like, the end of the day, I was able to wrap up everything and feel comfortable being done with it for the most part, and that has been hugely helpful, I think, honestly, of getting the dog, of having that cutoff time, like, "Hey, I should be done for the day," and
yeah,
enjoy the last hour or 2 of the night, not working my butt off, and
right,
And it has been helpful, but I believe that being strict with your boundaries is kind of key. And I
absolutely.
was 100% better about it this holiday season.
Yeah.
And
You were
saying
very
no,
strict on your last day ordering posts, and
I
to the
was.
point where I saw your post after the deadline, and I was like, "Well, that rules that out for me." So, I was gonna order I was like, "Nope, she's done. We can't do this
Yeah.
anymore."
And I took one order, one ornament after I cut off my date. That was
I'm
it.
so proud of you. That's
And I'm
wonderful.
proud of myself, and I really did not spend hours upon hours up at night working on things. Could
Yeah.
I have been a little better about balance during the day? Absolutely. I am who I am. I
Mhm.
am a procrastinator, and you will see that in my social media, in my reels.
Well,
I procrastinate like crazy, but I'm trying to be better.
yeah. Well, and the other thing too, it gets hard when you enjoy what you're doing. You really enjoy the products that you're making and the creativity that it allows you. It's going to sound weird, but I enjoy sitting here and looking at ad taxes and things. So, you know, it gets it's easy to sit here from 7 to last night I was here until almost midnight and I had no complaints. Like it's
Mhm.
easy to do that, but that was not a good boundary day. That was a bad boundary day.
Mhm.
And so, it does become harder, I think, the deeper you get into your business and the more that you actually enjoy what you're doing. And we're people pleasers, and that's part of the problem too. We all want to
I am
please our
I am
clients.
100% that.
Yes. And then I do just have one final question for you. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to another military spouse who's thinking about starting a business? Small, large, whatever it may be. What would you
Yes.
tell this
I
person?
would tell them that you have to start before you're ready. You will
Mm,
give yourself 100 excuses on why you are not ready to start and why you're not good enough and all of those things. And all you need is one good one to start. And you just need to
yeah,
do it. Just
just click
click
go.
publish on that link. And I made a lot of excuses in the beginning. And I started my spousely shop in June or July of 2020. Didn't list a thing. And I finally got the, hey, you're renewing for your quarterly. Like,
Mm,
I had 15 listings, I think, and it was a very minimal fee. And I'm like, I'm going to pay a $4 fee and not have a listing. I need to just post something.
yeah,
I mean, I'll spend $4 at Starbucks, no problem, but I'm
right,
spending
but not
$4 on
for
a
that, no.
but you have to sometimes just take that leap of faith and go with it because you have to think in the back of your mind, instead of thinking what's the worst that can happen, what's the best that can happen?
Mhm.
Because it could be better than you ever anticipated, and I truly feel like that's what this journey has been for me. It was better than I thought.
It's just adorable. That's very good
Oh,
advice. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I had a really good time.
me too.
Um,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, and hello, Maverick. You can't see him because we didn't video film this, but he's adorable. He'll be making his appearance on Katie's Instagram again, I'm sure. You are so cute. But so
100%. He
if
will
you
be there.
haven't and you want to look at Maverick, go over to Katie's Instagram. It will be in the show notes. Mine will be in the show notes. If you liked this episode, please screenshot, tag me in it on your stories. Let me know your comments. Email me if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you here in a couple of weeks. Thank you again, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and follow Tatum Accounting on Instagram. You can also do us a huge favor by leaving a review. It's the best way to support us. Let's catch up next week, same time, same place.